Hey, it's Emma Romano here, founder of the Thrive and Life Foundation, self-healing coach, and the midwife to your personal alchemy.
I am Kelly Bowen, founder of the Heaven Within Foundation, CEO of Lifestyle Finance Australia, finance expert, life and business coach.
And you are listening to Inspired Conversations,
where we talk about the things that really matter. Yes, we go there.
We share together what's exciting us, inspiring us, and having the most profound impact on our lives and our clients' lives. And we do this to elevate and inspire you.
We cover it all from life, body, love, relationships, trauma healing, addictions, business, money, and all things woo-woo.
So sit back, relax,
and get ready to be inspired and laugh the fuck out loud.
Hello, everybody. This is Emma Romano, and it is
Kelly Bowen, and you are listening to Inspired
Conversations. Guys, we're talking about a big one today. It's about dealing with things in the moment. And it's something that most people avoid. And I'm going to give an example of something that happened in my family recently. And my son has a lot of friends. He has like 5, 6. It's a really good group. And he went off to Japan. He's been on cruises. Jack's quite the go-getter. He works with spirit, with energy, has his own business. He's incredible. And one of his closest friends come out of the blue and just said, I can't be friends with you anymore. And
brutal.
It is brutal. And we don't know why. No one knows why. So Jack, being that beautiful, centered, masculine energy, is gone. Whatever I've said, whatever I haven't said, whatever I've done, whatever I haven't done, if you tell me what it is, we can fix this. We don't have to stop a relationship with this. We don't have to stop a friendship. This is completely fixable. And I love that about Jack, because that is very masculine energy. It's like, there is an action, we'll fix it here. And crickets from this guy, absolute crickets.
Wow.
And it is absolutely destroyed Jack. Like, he is in so much pain about it. And at first it was, what have I done? I really miss my friend. Now it's like, well, if I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, how can I stop it? Like, and he's looked at everything. He just can't figure it out. So we're talking about the importance, and something like this has happened to Kel, something like this has happened to me. I think it's happened to everyone. And I've been the other person as well, wherever I've said to somebody, I don't want to speak to you, but I've also told them, I don't want to tell you why. So I've played both sides of this. This is years ago that I was just like, I just cut this person out. Actually, I've done it a few times, this same person. And she's always said to me, what have I done? What have I done? And I've gone, I don't need to tell you. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. I just can't be friends with you. But looking back, it's because of, I'm going to be completely honest with you here. Is because what she did didn't match up to the emotion that I was feeling around what she did. What she did was petty. It didn't deserve to be broken up with. But it was almost like, as a people pleaser, I'm a people pleaser. And, you know, Kel and I did a lot of work on our people pleasing.
A couple of years back.
We don't do people pleasing anymore, right?
Well, we try our best not to.
Yeah. It creeps in sometimes, but we're so much better. We did so much freaking work on this. Anyway, as a people pleaser, you'll pretend that everything's okay for a very long time. And often what we'll do is, if something's not okay, we will really go out of our way to make sure you think that what you're doing is okay. And then when the shit hits the fan, or that straw on the camel's back, it could be the most slightest thing, will go apeshit, because we've just simply had enough. But the other person on the other end is like, I am completely flawed at what's going on here. I don't know what's going on. Because we've literally gaslit this person our entire existence, saying, no, what you're doing is fine. You're great. You're amazing. I love that you say this to me. I love that you treat me like shit. I love it. Oh, keep doing it. And then when we've had enough, and it's usually when we're exhausted or tired, we will look at the first person to break up with or yell at. And this is what we're talking about today. We're talking about sorting out problems in real time. And what we mean by that is, if I have a problem with Cal right now, then what I'm going to do is first I'm going to say to her, Cal, I've got an issue. Do I have your permission to share it with you right now? Are you in that space to hear it right now? Because she might go, no, I've got a client in 5 minutes, or no, I'm feeling really insecure right now. I'll call you when I am. It's all permission. But guess what? It's going to be sorted.
Mm-hmm. I remember when we were setting up sort of like the container of our friendship, this was the first thing I said to you, or one of the first things I was like, and this is when we were starting to work through our people pleaser. I was like, the one thing I have no tolerance for is things not being resolved in the moment. I do not want a seed of resentment to be growing within our friendship, because that was also the same thing that destroyed my 3.5 year engagement. There was just so many continuous seeds of resentments where things just weren't fully resolved, or things where I will take, and particularly like if we're talking about people pleasing, which is like, now we're talking about fawning, which is a nervous system response to perceived danger or not wanting to rock the boat, because you don't want to deal with other people's disappointment, because in dealing with somebody else's upset, it just, your system goes totally haywire because of the environmental condition that you experienced when you were a kid. You just wanted to appease the big people. You wanted to stay under the radar, keep them happy, because if they were happy, you were okay. And if they weren't okay, well, then all hell broke loose to some degree or another. But this, like, when this is an underlying function within your default behavior, or this is going on within your relationships, it will eventually have them crumble. And you might get away with it with those that are kind of in your outer circle because you're not with them close enough. But the closer in proximity you come with somebody, and the more emotional connection you have, and the more that you start to begin to rely on those people within your inner circle, there, and even like if then we go next level intimate relationship, if these behaviors are there, they are toxic and they will pull relationships down. And this is learning how to have this ability and capacity to speak to what's present in the moment.
You know, I've got some really good top tips on this one, right, for our listeners, because as most of you know, I do a lot of work with relationships and a lot of work with families. And there is something that we had to do in my family, and because I didn't start knowing all this stuff until my boys were around between 12 and 13. You know, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2014, and I went on this big journey of healing, found out it wasn't medical, it's all fucking emotional, all right? It's so much easier.
That old chestnut.
It'd be so much easier. It was freaking medical, but it's all, everything that's wrong with us is like in our body, our physical body is an emotion. It's our body giving us an indicator that something needs to be looked at. That's some kind of trauma, emotion, want, need, ignoring something. We need to look at it. So I went on, you know, this great big healing thing, healed myself of MS and all these other things, celiac disease, all that sort of stuff. And, you know, started seeing clients. But there is one thing I'm excited about. I always practiced on me and my family before I saw a client to see if it worked, right? So I wanted to walk my talk, right? So there's one thing that we did in the family, and I noticed how much I would fawn, and especially with my boys. I don't know if any mums can relate out there. I've got 2 kids who are very, very different. So I would treat Jack quite differently to Ben because they were such different kids. But if Jack did something wrong that I didn't like, I would ignore him. And he says it to me today. He goes, the worst thing you ever did to me as a mother. He goes, it wasn't the yelling, it wasn't the screaming, it wasn't making me do my homework. He goes, it was when you ignored me. He said it was the hardest part to handle. And it was because, for one, I knew I would ignore Jack because he'd done something wrong. It could have been as simple as he left his wet towel on the floor, and I would give him the silent treatment. But it wasn't because Jack had done that. It was because I had been people pleasing everybody all day for days and days and days, and I was at my wit's end. And the thing is, I always knew my children would never leave me if I treated them badly. But others would. So my boys got the silent treatment, all the yelling. Isn't that fucking interesting? So I
Mm.
had to change all of that. I had to become a completely different mum. I was quite the tyrant mum, like very loving, but very, very strict. I yelled a lot. And I had to change all of that. And there was one thing when Jack said that to me, he would have been 12 or 13, and he said to me, it was a silent treatment. He said, that's what hurts the most. Right? I vowed to him at that moment, I said, I will never silence you again. And I will never be silent around you again. You will always know what I think and feel. And I said to him, how would you like me to tell you? He said, in a text message with love hearts. I went, okay. So we have this family group message, and I really encourage everyone to do this who's in a family or in a relationship, friendship, loving, whatever it is. Let your other person know where you're at. So I will put on a message and go, hey guys, yeah, can't adult today. can't mummy today. I'm going to make a bolognese and hugs would be great. I'm going to sit and watch binge Twilight today. Just been too busy. I'll always say in the message what I'm feeling, what I'm doing about it, and why it's not them.
Mm.
Okay, because everybody will automatically go, what have I done? What have I done? Have I done something? That's the ego, right? Because we don't want to be rejected. So I'll always say, not you, it's all good, just overworked, done too much, just very tired, love you guys. And that's it. So that's for the husband and the two boys, because that's who lives in the house. And then everyone, no one's pussyfooting around. No one's saying, oh, is mum all right? Oh my God, what have I done? What have I said? Oh, did she need? Nothing. It's black and white. And I've I've also in that message told them what I need. Hugs. So it's given them an option to go, right, I can go rescue her for a minute, give her a hug and make her feel good. But I also know what I'm getting. Their nervous systems are regulated. Everything is sorted in that moment. No one's walking like a cat on a hot tin roof or anything. It is all done. And it is so easy to do it. It's so easy to do it. And another thing is another top tip, if you want my top tips,
Love the top tips.
if you need to have a discussion with somebody in your family or your friends group or anything like that, a colleague or whatever, ask them for permission first. Don't just dump on them and go, oh, you fucking piss me off. Ask them first to say, hey, listen, we need to have a chat. I feel a dysregulation. Are you open to receiving it? And it's permission. Because sometimes, like, I want to have a chat to Anthony, my husband, but if I just ring him while he's at work and go, he's like, I'm in a meeting, I can't talk. And he hangs up, I'm going to be even more furious. But if I text him and say, hey, babe, have you got 10 minutes? And he goes, I've got 5 now, or I've got 20 at 2 p.m. Great, I'll ring you at 2 p.m. then. Makes sense? It's all permission. It really, really helps. And then everyone just knows where they're at. And now I'm not going to just say that, yeah, I'll see you at 2 p.m. I'm going to say to him what it's about. Yeah, it's just, I was a bit shitty about last night or a bit shitty about this morning and I've got a lot on. I just want to vent with you. Is that okay? Can I just vent with you? I'm not telling him it's about him. I'm just venting. And this is really important. It's really important that we give our partners, our family and friends the opportunity to step up for us as well. And we give them the opportunity of growth and give ourselves the opportunity of surrendering to them and actually being held and allowing people to emotionally hold us as well, in our good and in our bad. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely makes sense. And they're great top tips, Em. They're such beautiful yet non-invasive and also indirect ways of bridging this topic. So I know for me, like one of the things, if somebody says we need to talk, my nervous system automatically goes, oh shit. But if it came to me like that in a text message where I've got like there's a level of dissociation between the confrontation of that. I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. I can prepare for that. I can be ready for that. I can like create this space for it. And I think there's so many things within that, whereas this beautiful, indirect, yet very direct approach around creating that space. I also love how like the family group text message where you can literally give them that space of, hey, this is what's going on for me. This is what I need. Here's how to like interact with me today. And it just gives everybody that peace of mind. Cool, we can all go about our day. This is what mum needs and mum's okay.
Exactly.
And they also get the space to do the same. And just want to circle back around on the silent treatment, because I know this is a way that a lot of people will deal with conflict. And having recently been through an experience where I felt like I was given the silent treatment many times over a period of time, it is the most excruciating, torturous way to try and communicate with someone, because in that moment, what you're doing to that person is telling them that they don't exist. Their thoughts, emotions, and feelings to you don't matter. And that if you leave it silent long enough, the problem will either go away. So what happens in the person's brain when this pattern's playing out, you're creating the same kind of addiction that people get to gambling. And the reason that happens, like you literally become a slot machine. Like the person giving the other person the silent treatment, you become a slot machine to the person receiving the silent treatment. Because what happens in the brain, and the same thing that happens when people gamble, is that when you go into the casino, you always know the house is going to win, right? But you still play. And you usually play and then you win. And you're like, woohoo! The dopamine pathways go off the chart and the brain gets super excited. And you might win a few times and you're like, wow, this is awesome. And then you start losing and the dopamine levels drop. But you know, if you keep playing, eventually you are going to win again. And the question becomes at what cost do you want to keep playing to get that win? And the same thing happens when people are going through this pattern with other people, is that if you're constantly receiving the silent treatment, you'll know to sit in the silent treatment, because eventually the person dishing it out will come around and create that connection. And the moment that happens, all of those high dopamine pathways go through the brain and it starts to create this somatic biochemical connection and addiction with the person that's dishing it out. And what happens here, people confuse love for this chemical reaction. And also it's a negative way to create connection, longing, and missing. Because when you've been in these extreme polarities of like closeness and then disruption, and because it creates such a disharmony in the person's brain that's on the other end of that receiving the silent treatment, then there's this like longing and missing, knowing that as soon as your numbers come up and you win again, you get all of the highs of the dopamine and the oxytocin coming together. And you're like, wow, I've missed this person so much and I love them so much. But what's really going on is your biochemistry has been entrained into this way of relating that you think is love or that you think is connection. And then if you've been programmed in this when you're little, and this is sort of like how the family system communicated and interacted, what happens when you go out as an adult, you keep creating situations like this. And then you're like, oh, I'm so in love with this person, or I feel so connected to this person that's playing out this pattern with you, when actually you're not. It just feels familiar to what you're conditioned that was love, which is actually not love.
Crazy, isn't it?
It's cruel. It is one of the most cruelest forms of torture you can do to another person. They actually use it in military tactics. And what they do, it's sort of like going off with Stockholm syndrome, where they'll be super nice to you, give you stuff, and then they'll just deprive you of everything till you're like right at your wit's end. And then they'll give you just enough, and then I'll take it away from you again.
Wow.
And it chemically entrains the person to be subservient to the people that are controlling the like either giving them the food, water, shelter, connection, so they become subservient and comply.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But then you look at this, right? Then you look at how these patterns play out where you have like narcissistic codependent relationships.
Mm-hmm.
The codependent, which is somebody who has like been through like a lot of fawning, well, they're both codependent, but somebody who has a high level of fawning, the people pleasing attracts the narcissist, playing out this pattern. Lots of love, connection, everything perfect, the love bombing to extreme disruption. And it could be silent treatment or it could be violent.
Yeah.
Then flip, connection again. But this biochemistry is what's going on. And so it can be one of the hardest things to break in terms of like it's another addiction. No
Yeah. And
different
it's
to
cruel.
it's
It's
really
very,
cool.
very cruel. And you
I
know what? I did it because my mum did it to me. My
Yeah,
grandmother did it to my mother. And
it's
it was
very
just,
effective.
oh, very effective. And it's just a way. I think we just got, oh yeah, we'll just give them silent treatment. Just don't talk to them. Just ignore it. Just ignore it. Ignore it. It'll go away. You know, that old chestnut. But this is another thing I want to talk about. What are we ignoring within ourselves that needs us to have a conversation with? I think that's a
Yeah,
big one.
that's a huge one. Because underneath
Yeah.
that, on two sides of the coin, there's so much self-abandonment and self-betrayal.
Yeah.
And one will be more vocal about it, as in much more aware of what the hurt is. Well, I guess at this spectrum. So let's go back even further. If you're completely unaware of this pattern, yet know that you go through extremes of just wanting to disconnect and like silence people or just move away from them, yet feel all of this angst underneath that you don't know what to do with, that you can't actually pinpoint, but feels like this somatic response, being that it just feels like your body feels this kind of repulsion to the person where you're like, I need to cut and go. That's one thing. A lot of the time, if you're in that space, then you're actually not in connection and awareness of what's going on. You're not even aware of how much you're lying to yourself or telling yourself that you're okay with things.
Mm.
That if you were to actually stop and rather than going into the reflex reaction and go, okay, well, is this okay for me? And before you even respond with anything, asking yourself the question, is this okay with me? And listen to that answer before you react to the external environment coming towards you, you'll realize how out of integrity you are with yourself, because it's compounding self-abandonment and betrayal from childhood. These are very deep attachment wounds, which often has nothing to do with the other person, but it might be the smallest thing, as you mentioned earlier, and the smallest feather will then bring up all of this, and you think it's the other person, and it's not. It's all of the years prior to that. And you not
Yeah.
knowing what is good for you and what's not good for you. And then once you recognize it, then how to communicate it in a healthy way, because most people are good people
Yeah.
and they want to create healthier relationships. And if you can communicate how you like to be spoken to, how you like to be connected with, how much connection you need, when you need space, what that looks like, people are more than happy to comply to give that to you. And
Mm.
this is like the thinking generously of others. If you can communicate what you need, most people are like, cool, no problem.
And do you know how easy it is to ask somebody, how would you like me to communicate with you?
Yeah.
That's the question you ask. How do you want me to chat to you? So I'll give you an example of this, just going back into my family. If I'm to ask my kids to do something in the house, Ben, I can just tell him, can you do the dishes? Can you put the bins out? Whatever. He's like, yep, no worries. Jack wants it in a text message with love hearts on it. So he knows I'm
Mm,
not yelling at him.
mm,
Anthony wants it as a text message or a written note, but I have to put smiley faces on it.
mm-hmm,
I'm like, sure, I can do that. My friend
mm,
Suzanne, she loves text messages. She wants me to send her she loves this in a connection. She goes, I want you to send me a lovely affirmation every single day.
mm.
Okay. I just send her a little affirmation every day,
That's
you
cute.
know. But then I said to her, I want you to send me a love heart knowing that you've acknowledged it. You
Yes.
can't ignore it. Because otherwise, if you say nothing and I see you've read it, I feel ignored.
Yeah, same. Bothers me.
Yes. So I want you, just give me a love heart. And she's like, okay, I can do that.
Yep.
And
Yep,
it's just
same.
asking. And it's like people want to comply. Because if
Yeah.
you tell me, oh, I want really fluffy messages anytime you ring, you message me, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I can do that. That's easy. Because then I know If I'm doing what had you feel good, my job's done. I don't have to think about it. It's just done.
Yeah.
You know, it's so much easier. And there's this great experiment that is done. And I know a lot of people have heard about the rice experiment, where you get 2 jars of rice, and one you talk to it and you go, hey, you're so sweet and lovely, I love you. And the other one you talk to it like you talk to yourself sometimes. You're a fat bitch, I fucking hate you. Right? And see which one goes off. There's a third jar of rice. And the third jar of rice gets put in the cupboard and just left alone. You don't talk to it. And the experiment is which one goes off first. And I thought it would be the one that you yell at. No, it's not. The one that goes moldy first is the one that you ignore.
Wow.
That blew my mind.
Wow.
So, because as humans, we just want connection.
Mm-hmm.
So even if I'm being yelled at, I am being noticed.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm being ignored, that is death to us. So if you're giving the silent treatment, stop it. If you're receiving the silent treatment, you need to have some very deep conversations with the people that you're around.
And first yourself.
First yourself.
And where your boundaries are and your tolerances are to it.
Yeah. I mean, this is one thing. What's your line in the sand? How much you're going to tolerate? What is it?
Yeah. And so for me, like one thing that I've recently learned, so when I was 18, I was a little bit older. I must have been around 21. I lost my best friend of like who I, from the ages of like 10 to 21, we grew up together. We were skiing together. We represented Australian teams together. We went to world titles together. Like we did everything together. And I don't know whether I would have got through my teenage years without her. She used to call me every day when there was all of the crazy stuff happening in my family. Without fail, she would call me like long distance from Perth, when Telstra used to have that $3 talk as long as you like. And then they had the mobile phones where you had free talk for 20 minutes and would literally talk to like 19 minutes and 50 seconds and then call each other back. So she was my best friend, and we did everything together. And I remember her dad got sick, and I was living in Perth at the time. Like I lived with them for maybe like the first month I was there, and then I moved into, like, I was boarding in this other place down by the beach. It was amazing. And then I had to move out of there, but I moved back in with them. And there was a bit of drama around how my best friend and I like had me move out of this other house and stay with them. Then we were going to get a place together, which her parents weren't too keen on. Anyway, I was like, well, I'm going to get a place for myself, regardless of whether you're coming with me or not. And then it wasn't long after that, I just got cut out of their lives completely. Still to this day, have no idea. And it was devastating. It took me years to get over that, to get over that loss. I hadn't experienced heartbreak like that ever. My whole world was falling apart. And it was the cruelest thing. And I remember there was times where I would be such a antagonist just to try and get a response from her. Like say something, anything. And then like engage with me. Like, what? I can't fix something if you don't tell me what it is. I can't change something if you don't tell me what it is. And it took me forever to get over that, like years. And now I'm at a point, like like whatever, I don't need to know. In fact, I don't even want to know. Like I feel very at peace with that. But I've also learned since then, and also coming out of my last relationship, I have very clear boundaries around certain styles of communication, around things needing to be resolved in the moment and to a way that's satisfactory for both people. One thing that I find challenging, and you may also notice this, like if you are addressing some of these more challenging issues with people, is that sometimes if somebody says sorry, the sorry just doesn't land. And they're like, well, I've said sorry, like you need to get over this now. And you're still left holding this thing of like, this is so far from resolved within me. Like, I'm sorry you feel like that, or I'm sorry that's your, I'm sorry you feel like that is such a dismissive of what you're feeling. It's, I think we spoke about this on the last episode, is as soon as something comes up, it's like, okay, well, like, let's just check in on this. Where is this person reflecting something back to me? Like, where was my true intention with that? And could my behavior be perceived in this way? Okay, cool. Got it. I'm really sorry that when I XYZ, it had you this. I can absolutely see from your perspective how it may have been interpreted that way. I'm really sorry. And then you can check in to see whether like this is a true thing for you. And then I'm always like, I'm so sorry that's how my behavior made you feel. I'm really sorry. It definitely wasn't my intention. This is where I was coming from, but I can absolutely see how it would have been received that way. Moving
Yeah.
forward, I can be more mindful.
And a great thing when you're saying sorry, don't forget a lot of people with the word sorry are triggered that it's bullshit. Because people, when you're young, they'll say sorry, but they'll do it again. So it's kind of a trigger for a lot of people that it's like an empty promise. Another one, good, if anybody wants this top tip, say thank you. Thanks for putting up with me. Thanks, even though that's hurt you. And I'm so sorry, my behavior's hurt you, but thank you. Thank you for sharing it with me. That is really deep for somebody to say, to actually sit there and go, thank you. Thank you. That must have been really hard for you to share that with me. Thank you. That's a big one.
Yeah,
because it is
particularly
hard. It is hard for some people to do that whole confrontation. And I've got to take the word confrontation out because it's not a confrontation. It's a share and it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
But people will take, I don't like confrontation. If people don't like confrontation, they're usually the person who figures if they want to speak their truth or speak what they want to have to say, there has to be a confrontation involved. It's not true.
No.
It's absolutely the opposite. So the first thing you would do is like you ask for permission, like, hey, I'm feeling a certain way. Are you open to hearing it? If that person says yes, can you hear it now? Yes. It's how I felt when you said that. But if I feel bad, so say if I'm scared of confrontation and Kelly, I don't know, is 5 minutes late at my house or something, and I go, Kel, we need to have a chat about this. You're always late, Kel. Why are you always late? I get so upset. That's a confrontation.
Yeah.
Or I can just say, hey, why are you're always 5 minutes late? It gives me the shits. And she can go, because I'm just really shitty with time. But thanks for being patient with me.
Yeah, that's kind of true.
It's kind of true. It's just we're just sorted now. We're done. That's it. We're done.
Oh, I try so hard to be on time for
Do
you.
you know what I mean? It's like I've shared it. She's told me. She's sorry that I'm so shitty about it being 5 minutes late. I'm like, thank you for listening to me. And she's gone, thanks for sharing it. There's no confrontation involved.
Yeah.
Does it mean that she's going to be on time next time? Fuck no. But I have now shared with her that it's giving shits. And guess what? It's gone. I'm not holding this resentment because resentment is the block to abundance.
It's a block to everything.
Block to freaking everything. So don't ever feel sharing your feelings is a confrontation. It's only a confrontation if you start it to be confrontation. It's your manner, it's your tone, it's your tonality, it's your body language that will create a confrontation.
Yeah, and these things too, I personally believe there are opportunities to create more closeness and more connection.
Yes, definitely.
Is the truth of what they are, yet we run away from them.
Yeah.
And it is really scary at the beginning to step into this space, yet the cost of not, you can lose some great relationships.
And your health.
And your health.
You lose great relationships, but you lose the biggest relationship, and that's with yourself. That's with your health.
Yeah.
100%. So anybody who's sitting there in physical pain, emotional pain, it's because you're ignoring yourself. Get yourself out of the cupboard. Don't be the white rice in the cupboard. Get yourself out of the cupboard and have a conversation with you. Find a practitioner, find a therapist, have a chat. Find someone who's not going to judge you on it and just talk, or like something that's really, really positive. There's some people who are really scared to talk or share. Write it down and burn it. Because the minute you've actually got it on paper, you're actually disassociating yourself from it. And it's a different problem then. It's on paper problem. And, give it to source, give it to God. Tell spirit, sort it out for me. Help me resolve and dissolve this.
Yeah.
It's super powerful. Use everything that we've got. We've got so many invisible friends at our beck and call, all these spirit guides and these angels. We got all kinds of these spiritual families, and use them. They want to help us out.
Yeah, 100%.
So don't sit in, that whole, I'm going to shut down, I'm going to give them the cold shoulder, I'm going to freeze them out. Don't do that. Don't do it to yourself. Don't do it to others. It's just, I think it's one of the most horrendous, debilitating, and cop outs as well. It's a cop out. It's a weak cop out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I used to do it. And but one thing I want to talk about as well is when somebody freezes you out or does the cold shoulder on you, do you know what happens about 2-3 days after them? And have a think about it, or it can even happen hours after. Once they've gone, nope, we're out, they go into a shame spiral.
The person giving the cold shoulder?
Yes,
Yeah.
they go into a shame spiral. And when they go in the shame spiral, they try and get other people on their side to validate their action. Interesting, isn't it? They try and get their little army of, no, you did the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that. There's also too from the, like, if we're talking about avoidant behavior now, and we're looking at nervous system regulation, when they become overwhelmed and they do that big retreat, what they're actually doing is they're trying to create distance and space because they emotionally feel overwhelmed, to regulate their nervous system so it deactivates. And once they've had enough of whatever their perceived time, distance, space is, and their nervous system deactivates, they're like, oh, cool, I'm ready to connect again. But they're completely unaware of the chaos that's been created for the other person in that.
Yeah.
So yes, they and again, depending upon the attachment style, you will get both sides of that coin that we just spoke about. What you said, Em, like going into the, now I want to create a wall around me to support my decision. And then there's also I just want to get out of here so I can deactivate. And then I feel better, which actually hasn't resolved the problem that's caused the overwhelm in the first place. Okay, cool. Now that my system has deactivated, now I want to reconnect, which is why you'll have, you'll be dating that guy or that girl and you're like, wow, like there's just this thing between us, but then they just keep disappearing. And you'll finally get to that point where you're like, nah, I'm just done with this. And then always 3 months later, 6 months later, like, oh, I really miss you. I think we might have something. Can we give it one more try? Because their nervous system is deactivated enough that they realize how they feel about you, because all of the suppressed stuff that being in your presence was bringing up for them to deal with has now gone to sleep. They're like, oh, I think we can do this again. Yet none of the things that have been dealt with that need to be dealing with. So even as soon as you start to come together, it'll be great for a little bit, and it's just going to be the same problems.
Yeah, because nothing's been dealt with. Deal with your shit, peeps. Deal with the shit.
Yeah. So,
my love, thank you for today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That was a deep one.
Yeah, there's a lot in there, and
there's a lot in that one.
Yep.
Anyone here who's going, fuck, it's okay. We've been through the same thing, guys.
Yeah.
This is Kella and I.
Oh, we've been on both sides of this coin.
Oh my God, both sides of it. We're here with you. Please share with us, message us, email us. We've got you. If you need a therapist or a practitioner, we can refer.
Yeah. Em's currently practicing. Her doors are open.
Yeah, my doors are open. I am practicing.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to us. Please jump on our Facebook group, Inspired Conversations with Em and Cal. We are not paid for this. We do this out of love and service. We do this for you because we adore you. Please message us and tell me I'm funny at least. For fuck's sake, just tell me something.
You are funny, you're gorgeous, you're beautiful, you're amazing, and I feel inspired by you every day.
Mirrors, thanks, beautiful. Receiving, I love you. Thank you, everybody. We love you guys.
Mwah.